Welcome to Brave New Bookshelf, a podcast that explores the fascinating intersection of AI and authorship. Join hosts Steph Padonis and Danica Favorite as they dive into thought-provoking discussions, debunk myths, and highlight the transformative role of AI in the publishing industry.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Brave New Bookshelf. I'm one of your co-hosts, Steph Padonis, CTO of Future Fiction Academy and Future Fiction Press, where we're teaching authors how to use AI in any part of their process, and we're publishing AI-forward books on the press. And if you guys have been listening to us for a long time, you know that when I open up the show with some chit-chat, I always like to find out what's going on with your world and my world and whatnot. I've talked about the weather a couple of times in the last few weeks because it has been snowy and it's very much winter here. The thing I wanted to mention today was that I'm finally really writing again, and that's exciting because I have not actually done that for myself in a long time. I have been working in AI and writing with AI and images with AI and doing all that kind of stuff for 4 years now. And for a long time, I've set my own work aside because it does take a lot of your emotions. It takes a lot of your headspace to get back in with your characters and your worlds and everything. And that was space I just didn't have because I was doing a lot of this other work. So I set it aside. I was doing other things for my audience and whatnot. But now I'm actually getting a chance to write again. I'm writing inside of Notion with Claude Opus 4.6. Where are we now? I don't even know. Where I'm using the latest version of Opus is what I'm using inside of Notion, and I'm really enjoying it. We're pantsing it together. I'm like, let's write the next 500 words, and it helps me, and we guide each other on the path, and it's been a lot of fun. It is cool and exciting to learn these tools and then go use these tools and use them for other purposes other than, your writing or your marketing or whatever. So for me, I just made a shift from doing lots of marketing and nonfiction work as part of my job to doing more fiction work. And that has been a lot of fun, and I'm excited about that. Hopefully you guys are all doing exciting things with your AI as well. I see my lovely co-host smiling on the other side of this video, so that's good. I'm glad that she's having a good time listening to me talk about my writing because I don't get to do it that often. But Danica, Favorite, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, I'm very excited to hear you talk about your writing. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Danica Favorite. I am the community manager at Publish Drive, where we help authors on every stage of their journey from getting their manuscript formatted, book description, metadata, distributing your books to the widest market possible. And then once your book is out, we will be able to help you with your various promotions. And then finally, we can do some royalty splitting if you're splitting royalties with people. Lots of great tools. And of course, as I always like to mention, the people at the Future Fiction Academy can also help you write those books. And I have to give another shout out to Steph and what she's doing with Notion, because we're trying to build up some of our views on YouTube, but we're doing everything low key because this really is, even though our companies are sponsoring it, we have to carve little bits of time in our work days to do the podcast, but this is our passion project. This is something that Steph and I just do for the joy of it. And I met with Dale Roberts, shout out to Dale, the other day and asked him for some tips. And so I just briefly in a conversation mentioned them to Steph about making playlists on YouTube for Brave New Bookshelf. And Steph messaged me and says, hey, guess what? I got the playlist done. I'm like, how'd you get that done so fast? And she's like, oh, Notion AI, because we run the podcast. I don't think people know this, but we actually run the podcast using Notion. Like the whole podcast is organized through Notion. We have a database, all of the information, everything we do lives in Notion. And so all Steph had to do was boom, run all of our episodes through Notion's AI. AI gave her a suggested list of playlists, and now we have a playlist for our podcast on YouTube. So really excited about that. And again, if you're not checking us out on YouTube, please do. We're super cute. Steph has her cute little Duolingo guy behind her. I always love him. Always makes me so happy to see Duo back there. But really, like, subscribe, all that stuff. So we were talking before we started recording about what we were going to say, and Steph was like, "Ooh, I'm not going to talk about this thing." I'm like, "I am," and this will be old news by the time this comes out. But some of you may remember there was a bit of a furor going on about how Anthropic was asked by the government to sign this deal, and Anthropic said no way. And so the government's mad at Anthropic, and then people got mad at OpenAI because OpenAI signed it. And here's the funny thing, people are like, this is, this is like bad, bad. Since that happened, so this happened Friday, we're recording on Tuesday. Sam Altman with OpenAI came back and backtracked and said, whoa, we were a little hasty in doing this. Let's take a step back and refigure this out. And so by the time this airs, I'm sure the whole saga of the federal government versus the different AIs will have played out even more differently. So the principle that I want to leave you with is this idea of not having all your AIs in one basket. If you are solely reliant on ChatGPT, if you're solely reliant on Claude, just kind of get to know another model. And you can do it on the free plan. You don't have to spend more money. And this is the principle I talk about a lot with Publish Drive and Publishing Wide. This is why Publishing Wide, even though a lot of KU authors are like, yeah, I make so much money doing KU, blah, blah, blah. Great. But if something happens and Amazon closes your account like that, boom, your whole publishing is gone. And so, what do you have as a backup plan? Maybe KU is wonderful for you and you love it and you don't want to leave. Great, don't. But do you have a backup plan? And that's what I see happening with AI right now is it's not so much whether or not you should use a particular tool or how to use a particular tool. It's make sure you have a backup. Even we haven't talked a lot about the agentic ones, anti-gravity or Claude Cowork, all those things, but at some point we do have some people coming on to talk about those, which I'm excited about. But a lot of those, when you use them, some of the guardrails you have to put in place because it can change your hard drive and it can do different things. And so you want to be careful. You want to have your backups. You want to have your backup plan. And in my opinion, this is just responsible computer use and responsible tool use. Always make sure that no matter what tool you're using, how you're using it, you've got another option and you know how to use another option. So that's where I wanted to go with that. And yeah, so that's my 2 cents on that.
I agree with this. I'm a big fan of Claude, as most people know. I like Claude, but I also dabble a little bit with OpenAI for some things, and then Gemini is actually my backup AI that I use for any kind of like writing fiction work, that sort of thing. So it is good to have them spread out a little bit and not put all those eggs in one basket, as you said. Definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah. Speaking of eggs in one basket, no, actually, I didn't have a good segue there, but I thought that would be funny. We have today a guest, Amy Campbell, and we've had Amy on the show before. I love her dragon stuff. I was showing this off before. She made these cute little cards that came out with her Dragon Latitudes Kickstarter. So yeah, if you aren't watching this on YouTube, you didn't get to see the cute little dragon card, but it's super cute. I have it here by my desk because I think it's really cute. And I love what she's doing as an artist and just with all the storytelling she does. Again, if you didn't listen to the previous episode, go back, check it out. But what she's doing now, what we're going to talk about today, is how Amy is using and working in live events. And we were also talking about how the three of us are all actually introverts, and people don't always guess that about us. And Amy was telling a story about how even the person who does these live events with her was like, this is weird. And so it just shows that all of the stuff we're doing now are just fun opportunities to get outside your comfort zone, try something new. And as always, take what you can out of this. And if it resonates, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. But I find that there's always a little something that you can take away from a lot of our guests. So I am going to hand this over to Amy. Amy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How are you using AI and what you're doing now?
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Campbell, and I am a fantasy writer. Although I write unusual versions of fantasy, I have Western fantasy, steampunk dragon fantasy, and my latest big series is an dragon romantasy. That was my last big Kickstarter. But I use AI for so many things in my business. It's more like what what don't I use it for these days? I've used it for a lot of the art in my Kickstarters, as y'all have seen in the past episode I was here. I use it to help with like ad copy on Facebook or even copy on the Kickstarter page. But the real interesting use I found for it recently was when I did a live event at the end of January. So I was invited to come do AggieCon in College Station, Texas, and it was my first time there. And I was going to have a 6-foot long table, which that sounds like a lot, but when you're an author, it's actually not that big. And I usually do a big convention here called Comic Palooza, where I have these 2 big 8-foot tables. I've got plenty of room to sprawl. My chaos can find its way there. But so a few days before the con in January, I pulled out my own 6-foot table and I looked at all the books I was taking. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to make this work. So I was like, I know who's really good at figuring out where things go when I show him things. So I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, let's go. So I pulled them up on my phone. I had this all in my living room. I pulled them up on my phone and I took a picture and I opened up a new chat. I told chat pretty much, hey, I'm going to this convention at College Station, Texas. I had the 6-foot table. That's the size you see here. These are the books I'm bringing. How can I make this setup appeal to my ideal reader? So we went back and forth. He kept looking at things. I would make little tweaks, and every tweak I made, I would take a new picture, add it to the chat, and he would say, move this and that. So probably 15 or 20 pictures later, I had this really amazing setup that I would never have done myself because I don't have that kind of design eye. So I was like, okay, this is really good. And then that same day, he also helped me figure out how to put up the big banner I was going to put behind my table because I am not mechanically inclined and I will put things together the wrong way if given a chance. So I had the instructions from Amazon and I'm like, this does not make sense to me. So I'm taking pictures of everything I'm doing. I'm like, how do I do this? How do I do this? Where does this go? And it took 2 hours, but I got it figured out. And when I had to put it up on Saturday, it did not take 2 hours, thanks to chat. But what was also nice, so when I got to the convention on Saturday, my table was a little different than I thought as far as the flow of where people were going to come. So I took a picture of my setup and I was like, hey, this is how I'm oriented. People are coming this way. Should I change things? And chat said, yes, pretty much flip things because he had his reasons for the flow. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. And it worked really well. It was not a design I would have made, but it was very effective.
I love this idea. Like when I talked to you prior to this, you said, oh, we're going to talk about using AI for live events. I didn't realize it was going to be like placement and those sorts of things. That's really cool because I'm also spatially challenged about things where I'm like, I'm not really sure to put things. And I often will take a picture of something and give it to an AI and be like, tell me what I need to be doing here. You can use it to take pictures of things that you don't like really understand or know, and it can see and give you direction. And I love that. I feel like we've finally entered that time where our phones are like actual oracles now because in the past that's what we called it, the just go ask the oracle, which was just get on your phone and Google, and now it can actually see and understand things, and that is such a treat. I love that.
Yeah, I have been loving the fact, like I've shown you guys, I have the Google Pixel phone, and I've always had the most up-to-date version of Google Lens, that I had it way before everyone else and always loved it. But the level at which it has gotten so much better, it's just amazing. I really am loving that, again, spatially challenged, that anything that I need information on or help with, I can use Google Lens to pull it up, and boom, not only do I have that thing pulled up, but right now, true story, I am having struggles with Claude Cowork and anti-gravity, mostly because on my laptop they use up so much of the RAM and the processing. So my old laptop has more RAM and more processing, but the reason I don't use it is the battery's dead. And I just like, I don't remember what kind of laptop or anything it is, but I like Google Lens parts of the battery, and now I know what to get. And I'm like, this is just amazing. And I think about that and it's so useful. So to me, hearing practical steps like that from Amy is powerful because a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but I have spent just hours spinning my wheels, like what you were saying, and setting up that display, going to a conference and trying to set up the display. I spent so much time trying to figure it out. And if I have that picture and that this is what you do, that makes it 1,000 times easier. So go you.
Danica, so here's another pro tip for you with your laptop. So in early January, I added all these like desktop widgets to my MacBook thinking, oh, this will make me more productive. I didn't realize that it was actually slowing down my MacBook. And ChatGPT told me why after the fact, that I was like, oh, duh, because it's always updating everything. But my MacBook was getting slow. And I used to be able to have like Claude, Chat, 11 Labs, like, 45 tabs open in Chrome. Like my poor little MacBook was probably stressed out, but it could still work. And then suddenly, like, it started just like being super slow and not working. So I'm asking Chat, what's going on? So he had me like pull up the activity monitor and I showed him the processes and he's like, whoa, there's too much of all these things going on. So we finally figured out it was those widgets I added that was slowing things down. When I took them off, it worked perfect after that. So don't sleep on Chat helping you in like technical ways too, like that.
Yeah, I've done that as well because when I was setting up anti-gravity, for some reason, every how-to video for setting up anti-gravity is missing a step. And it's always like this one little step. And so what I finally did is I did the same thing is I just took screenshots of everything I was doing. I was like, okay, what am I missing? And then it's like, boom, here you go. And so I don't think that people realize just how handy it is that if you are like me and not a computer genius, you can sit there and you can ask it questions. And what's really great is you're not going to get the eye roll of, oh, I can't believe you couldn't figure that out. Like, it's just so nice of, oh, here's the screenshots. This is what I've done of each step. Oh, cool. Here's what you missed. And usually it's just like a little teeny tiny thing. And really just having that extra help, it's so valuable. So yes, I love that tip, Amy, because I think, again, as I said in the beginning, maybe you're listening to this, you're like, oh, live events aren't for me, but you just, no matter who you are, you just got a bunch of practical tips on how to use the AI. So I love that. So tell us what else you're working on.
Yeah, I still have some more live event tips with AI too, because I literally used it like in every way I possibly could for this. So, like I mentioned, this was my first time going to this convention. So, I didn't know how many people attended. I didn't know what the setup was going to be. So, I went to ChatGPT and I went into research mode and I was like, okay, this is the convention I'm going to. And this was like the 55th year for it, which is also ironic because I went to Texas A&M and I'd never heard of this con, but that was because it was before the internet. If you didn't know people, you didn't know things back in the day. But anyway, I digress. So Chat did his diligent research. He came back and he's like, I couldn't find a lot, but he looked at Reddit, he looked at Facebook, he looked at like little newspapers and things like that. So he was able to give a very rough estimate of attendance over various years. And then, of course, that the pandemic came and probably wrecked all of the numbers. So he was like, yeah, it could be this, it could be this. It's really hard to say, but this is what I'd estimate. And what was really interesting was he had estimated about 800 people would come over the weekend based on what he saw. And I spoke to someone there who was the dad of the girl running the vendor area, and that's how many he said came. And I was like, what? Like, Chat, you were like on it. That's amazing. I think he got lucky, but it was really interesting based on all of his data that he could figure that out. And another thing I did with him was I talked about the pricing of my books because, and here are the people on YouTube get to see the pretty books I have. So I have these special edition books I sell at the events. And, these are nice at like comic cons and things like that. But this was a college with college students. And we all know college students, they're buying those $200 textbooks. So they probably want their pretty fantasy book to not have to worry about, biology or chemistry or whatever they're studying. But, this is pricey. So I talked to Chad about, a price point that would work and which books to take because I have, no bling books. I have medium bling books, like paperback versions of that. And then I have the hardcovers and the book boxes. So we made a strategy based on that. So I had all kinds of different price points. And like even the hardcover, I dropped the price by about $5 thinking that might tempt people, and it did. So we kind of did this heavy analysis based on who we thought would come and then what they might actually buy. And that was actually very spot on as well, too. I was right next to my friend Rose Garcia. She did really good selling books as well. And then there were some other authors a few tables down. And of course, Rose and I brought up all of our pretty books. So we did pretty decently. But I know for a fact, because of just all the vendors there and like the shopping fatigue, that part of what sold my books was like number one, the beautiful AI covers, and then like the setup of the table that Chat had done just to kind of lure people there. So I was very happy with those things too.
This is what I love that you specifically said the AI covers is what drew people in, because I keep hearing over and over, oh, nobody's going to buy books with an AI cover. No one wants an AI cover. Here you are, live events, and it was the AI covers that was drawing people in.
Like this one, again, you two people get to see the pretty gold foil dragon on this. Here's another tip, unrelated to the live events, but just related to this in general. So when you're doing like a foil cover for Book Vault or the overseas printers, you have to have a separate file that is just the art as like a SVG file, and it has to be like black and white. If you have Chat or Midjourney or Ideogram, whoever makes this cover like this, it doesn't have this as a separate thing. Currently, I don't know if it'll still do it in 2 months or whatever, but you can give this cover to Chat and you can say, hey, I'm going to make this dragon and these words gold foil. Can you pull them out and put me, make them black on a white background so that I can make a foil cover with this? And he will do that. I learned that tip from a friend of mine.
I bet
So
you.
that's also very helpful.
Yeah, I bet Nano Banana from Gemini could probably do that too. It's so good at either pulling stuff out of images or mimicking images or putting your image into other images. Because I use it as well for putting my book cover into flat lay images for my website and that sort of thing. So Nano Banana would probably be good for that as well. I love the covers. I love the gold foil and your printed edges there. Are they forced edges on those books?
No, they're printed through Book Vault.
They're very
So
pretty.
again, for the YouTube people, you get to see all the pretty stuff.
They
So
are
if you're
very
doing
pretty.
I usually do the podcast, but if you're doing the podcast, come to YouTube right now.
Exactly. And I think that by did what was the layout of your table? Did it show off those right away so that it would draw people in? Is that the way that OpenAI, the GPT gave you to do that so that it would bring people in?
Yeah, and so I was able to tell him based on Comic Palooza that I did last year, I could tell him like my book boxes and then my Dragon Latitudes and Dragon Meridians cover, which is my other Dragon series, those brought people in like bees to honey. So based on that, he said, let's feature the book boxes and the shiny special edition books, but then below them on the tier below, but laying flat, have your paperback so that people would come to the pretty books and then they'd say, oh, I can't afford $65 because I'm a college student, but maybe I can afford this $25 book that has a full color interior, also with AI art, and I have this beautiful book to take home with me now. I usually kind of try to have it based on attraction, which is what Chat was deciding too. So we attracted them there with the pretty things. They saw maybe they couldn't afford the pretty thing, but I tried to have an alternative that they could take home with them.
I really love that because I go to stuff like that too. And I look at the books, I'm like, I can't do the $65 book. But having right there the lower cost option available, that's so smart. And it's great that Chat's able to pull out all this business advice and use numbers and give you appropriate price points and data and stats. It wasn't so long ago that Steph and I were on here saying, please do not believe them when they give you numbers. Ignore any numbers that Chat gives you. AI is bad at numbers, and now it's pretty darn good. And so it's super cool to hear just how good all of your numbers and calculations came out.
Numbers are getting better because they can now access tools. So that's something that people don't realize is that now on the back end, the LLM can interface with MCP servers and other tools on the back end. So sometimes I'll be working on something and I use Typing Mind for my interface with LLMs, and I can see Claude pull up data, then go to a calculator and calculate it all, and then come back and give me exact numbers, which is great. So sometimes there's some hallucinations in there, obviously, but it is getting a lot better. I agree.
And something else I did too was with some of the numbers, I would push back and I would say, how did you get this? Where did you find this? I would push back to, also because I was curious. I'm like, hey, where did you actually get this information from? I want to go look at that site too. So I would push back sometimes. But I am also, in addition to not being mechanically inclined, I am not inclined at all with math. And so for me, calculators when I was a kid were like, oh, this is amazing technology for me. I really love that AI has gotten better with math because that's another one of my pain points. And one of the things I did when I actually came back from the convention was I was trying to figure out if it was worth going back to next year because I had to travel, get a hotel for 2 nights, be away from my family. And I'm like, okay, is it worth it? I can gain new readers, but again, we're talking poor college students who are busy reading other things. Will they be able to come back to my books finally? So when I came back that Monday, I pretty much went back to my same chat that I had with Chad, and I said, okay, let's do a cost benefit analysis to know if I should go back to this con next year. So I was like, what do you need to know? And then, of course, he gave me homework of all the stuff I needed to get him. And I was like, oh, I hate you, but I will get you this information. I will get it for you because I need to know. So he wanted to know how much of each book sold, like what the format was, what my return on investment was, how much the hotel was, how much the banner was, how much the table was. So I got all this data and fed it to him. And then he looked at it and then he came back and he was like, I do think it's worth it to go back. And he listed all of his reasons that he thought I should go back. But then I pushed back more than because I was like, but are you sure? Because I lost the weekend of writing and being with my family, cleaning my house. I lost a few days before figuring out the table, figuring out the setup, this and that. But he was able to successfully convince me that these are the reasons of why you should consider because it will help you over time. And he was like financially, you made enough to more than cover your travel and your weekend. He had so many good reasons. I was like, okay, darn it, you convinced me.
I really love this because, as I was saying back in our previous episode about critical thinking, like it's so great that you're pushing back on the AI and saying, okay, really? How did you come up with this? Where did you come up with this? And this is why, even though everyone's so afraid of AI, I think it goes back to this idea of how do you use it and how are you being responsible in using it and validating your data? Because yes, sometimes it still hallucinates. Again, it's getting so much better at that. It's been a while since I've had something I would say is an actual hallucination, which is super cool. But it's so good to always be challenging that. And I like what Steph was saying too about, I love it now that it shows you the little steps where it's like, and I'm checking this, and I'm doing this thing, and I'm doing this thing, because you really are seeing, okay, this is the work that it's putting into. It's like, I was the kid in math class when I was younger where they would say, show your work. Some of the problems showing your work was good, but I always had a weird way of doing things, still came up with the right answer. Learning that this is a neurodivergent thing, but I would hate that because the way I showed my work never was what the teacher wanted, but I still got the right answer. And it's still the same thing here where they're showing the work. And so at least you see that they're going through a thinking process. It's not just, okay, here's an answer. You know that they've researched it. And you can sometimes even see in some of the models where it will say, oh, I thought through this. So I think this is really cool. And I love that you asked it to give you that ROI and to actually help you decide if you're going to go back again. So it sounds like it was really worthwhile for you to go.
Yeah, it was, and it was worth it just seeing on what the AI could do to help me use my way getting there. Because I feel like a lot of what helped my success was using the AI, leveraging it this way. Because I would have had a nice table regardless because I've got the pretty books, but it really brought it up another level with having this display that was just spot on, luring people to me, and it just really helped me feel like brought me up another level because there were some other vendors there, not just authors, a wide variety of vendors who some of them had nice displays. Some of them I really wanted to be like, I wanted to go try to convert them to AI and be like, hey, have you considered ChatGPT? Let's take a picture of your table and see what he could do to make it prettier. But I didn't do that because some artists are really touchy about AI, so I didn't want to have anybody chase me out of there with a pitchfork or anything. But I really wanted to be like, oh, the AI could really help you with this thing. So maybe someday we'll be in a world where we can do that.
What were some other things that you thought of that you might want to use AI for next time when you go do a show? I mean, I'm sure that after using it for a little while, you probably got some good ideas in the back of your mind. Anything stand out?
Not overall, although it was funny because when I was there, I was next to my author friend Rose Garcia. And so between talking to readers, we would just kind of chat back and forth. So she had mentioned that she was thinking of maybe changing her author name to possibly being an initial and a last name because she had a friend who did it. And I was, oh, like, why did they do that? So she talked about why. And so then I was like, you have an established brand. So I don't know what that would do with that, but I've thought about something like that too. So I said, well, I've got time. Let's see what Chat thinks about this. So I asked Chat, hey, I'm thinking of changing my author name. And so is my friend. What do you think about this? These are our current names. These are our current brands. And so first he analyzed me because he knows me, of course, and he knows what I write. And he was like, no, you should not change it because people are going to get confused about, what you're writing otherwise. People know that Amy Campbell writes these very different fantasies. This is your brand. Do not touch it. And I was like, but I have problems on Goodreads because there's another Amy Campbell. So I kind of wanted him to be like, yes, change it so you can make life easier there. But he's like, no, don't touch it. So I'm like, oh man. So then I had him analyze my author friend. And so he went through it and he's like, no, tell her not to touch it either because she needs to stay as she is. She's going to sell more books with her current name. And so I showed her, I'm like, this is what Chat says. And she read it. She's like, okay, yeah, that's okay. That's really good reasoning. But another funny thing we did was I took a picture of one of my book covers because I'm sitting there bored between readers, and I said, okay, take this cover, make it say A.D. Campbell instead of Amy Campbell. So it, thought made the picture, and then it had my new potential author name on there, A.D. Campbell, and I was like, yeah, I don't like how that looks. I'll stick with Amy Campbell. So that was just a funny off the ball. We're bored, so how can I play with AI thing that we did there too?
It's keeping you on your toes.
Yes, exactly.
I love that. I've been sitting here thinking while you've been talking about different ways you could probably use AI at a live event, and I'm thinking like maybe if you're brainstorming ideas for swag, it might be able to help you out there. It might be able to help you out with cold cold talking, cold selling to people. Like
Mhm.
how do you approach people about your work? What are the things that you might want to talk about first, whether it's tropes or asking the other person questions about what they like to read or anything like that. And I was also thinking that it would probably be good to like have so that you can as your stock dwindles like on the table, how to rearrange things later to make it still look like you've got plenty there to offer for people. These all just came into my head just now. So please, people, go out and take that and helps you when you go do some live events. Danica, did you think of anything?
I was just blown away by some of this because even like the idea of how many books would I even bring? Um,
Mhm.
like now, obviously, Amy, you've got the data. You see what sold and what to do. But for somebody who's never done it before, really to be able to have that resource, because the other thing that I was thinking about, even with you guys talking to Chat about your author names, I get really frustrated with author groups sometimes because there's always people who have very strong opinions who always answer every single question that people have, and they're incredibly opinionated about it. And a lot of the time, they are wrong. And part of that is they don't know your business. They have no idea what your brand is. They have no idea what your market is. They don't even know your genre because they write in a completely different genre. But because they've had success as their name in their genre, they think that they know everything there is to know about publishing. And I get really frustrated with that because, like I said, a lot of times it's just wrong. And so when I look at what you're doing and what you did to be able to say, okay, Chat, here's what we're thinking, here's why, and it gives you really good reasoning behind it. Suddenly, it's not just the opinion of somebody who knows nothing about your business, who thinks they know everything, but now it's actually somebody who has looked at your business and is doing it from a very neutral point of view. So yeah, that's where I was going with thinking about that, because honestly, that's what I do anymore, is instead of going to the groups and asking their opinion, I'll talk to chat and say, hey, chat, what do you think of this? And also go down some of those rabbit holes that I no longer feel comfortable doing in a group, because especially now that I'm obviously, I co-host a podcast with my friend Steph about using AI for authors. It's just, I don't even want to expose myself to some of these people and their nonsense.
I hear this. I definitely use chat or Gemini or whoever to help me with business decisions, where to go with certain series, what to do with my business. I recently published all of my books on my website for free. That was a big step for me to take, to put all of my stuff out there for free. But it's a calculated risk on my part. It's all about bringing people in, showing them my work, and letting them know that I write for me and everybody else is secondary. Here, come enjoy the work that I've made, and not doing this for money. I'm actually just doing it to put my stories out into the world, and that's my business. But if I went into a Facebook group and told people that, they would all call me crazy. They'd be like, what are you talking about? You don't want to make money? What's wrong with you? And I would hear it and I would internalize it, and then I would doubt myself and whatnot. And so now I just go to my chat buddies or my really close friends about these things, and I don't go to the wider world about it anymore. I agree. But I want to get back to the live events, because I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't think about enough. I certainly have I've done some signings in the past and whatnot, and it wasn't really my thing. But I've seen other people go to cons. They have these books, they have the pretty books, they have the kind of properties, I would say properties, that are going to draw in fans, because it's the whole fandom thing. The whole fandom thing is really, I feel like it's like the next step up when you're an author, right? You get readers and they love you and whatnot, but once they like become fans, and I've seen these readers, they're like the ones that are going out and getting tattoos of your characters. They're making fan art, they're doing all of this kind of stuff. And being at live events is how you reach those people. And AI can definitely help here, because we're not all extroverts. We come from both sides of that spectrum, from introverted to extroverted. And if you just need that little bit of extra help, AI is going to be there for you for these things. For planning, maybe you want to start with smaller cons first. So go talk to AI about all the smaller cons you might want to go visit first. Also talk to it about the kinds of things that you need for your table, your booth, whether that's a big printed sign or you start with something smaller and you work your way up. All of that thing is upfront costs that you can take from one con to the next, because like when Amy did her cost benefit analysis with chat, it's able to look at it and say she spent money on these things that she's not going to have to necessarily spend money on the next time she goes to a con, because she can just take those with her. And those are a lot of things that we don't necessarily think about. So go to chat for these things, because I think that we can all benefit from having like a neutral third party look at these for us and help us make those decisions.
And I will say one more thing about live events, and to borrow from Joanna Pin, double down on being human. That's another reason I like live events, because I obviously integrate a lot of AI into my process and my business. But by doing the Kickstarters, by going out to these live events, that shows people like, hey, this is a real human who is obsessed with these characters, making these pretty books. Like, she's not just pressing a single button, ha ha ha, and producing these beautiful books. It really puts me out there with the readers, and people will sometimes, it does get awkward when people say, who did your art? Everything is so pretty. And then I'll say, honestly, well, I did. And they're like, you're so talented. You drew all these. And I'm like, well, if they really are interested and ask, sometimes I will say I generate things through different art LL, generators, and put them together in Affinity Photo to kind of make a whole from them. So if they're curious, I will tell them the design process. I won't just say, oh, I just go to ChatGPT and put, really cool dragon, and really cool dragon comes out that I put on my book. Like, it's a whole process. And some people, they're just happy to hear, oh, you made the art. Yes, I'm going to buy the book. And some people love to hear, oh, how did you do the art? And then I'll tell them, and they're like, I have told people that some of it is AI. And at first I was like, they're going to stone me. They're going to throw me out of here. But more people have been like, oh, really? This is really cool. So that has been really interesting too.
Yeah, I think the general public honestly doesn't even understand what AI art is. And so I think it's nice that you're able to just talk to them about it and again, have that human conversation and understanding that it's just humans interacting with each other, because I think that is the point that sometimes we miss in the online spaces. Like, it's so easy to leave a nasty comment on somebody's post and, oh, I hate AI. Okay, but do you want to have a conversation about it instead? And online, people don't. They don't want to sit and just talk and get to know a person and their process. And I think that is really important because, yes, AI does all that heavy lifting for you, but ultimately you get to be the person out there having conversations with them. And that sounds really cool and fun to be able to get to know people and, like you said, build that fandom.
To go back to the introverts that we talked about earlier, like we said, I'm a very big introvert. I did used to work at the public library where we would do, have to do outreach events and go out in public, which I'm like, oh gosh, I have to go out in public. I just want to sit in the library and be the stereotypical librarian who sits and read my book, which we don't get to do either. So I would take one of my former staff members to these live events with me. And so she would just be so surprised when I would leave the table and, tell people like, hey, do you like to read fantasy books? Do you like dragons? Do you like this and that? And just be very outgoing. And she's like, who are you? Like, you turn into a totally different person at these events. And I'm like, well, number one, I want to sell these books. But number two, I'm also very invested and excited about my books and my worlds that I create too. So I think that can also, for people who are really passionate about their work, the live events are great for that because you get to help make your potential new readers excited about it too.
Yeah, I think that's also a good point. It's just that passion of your books being able to come through in ways that a Facebook post can never convey. I mean, you can say, "Oh, I'm so excited about this book" in a post or in your newsletter or whatever, but to actually see that excitement and to interact with the human being behind it is really powerful. And that's why we're always going to need humans. We're always going to need that interaction and to be able to see that spark of excitement and joy. And I love that you're bringing that joy to others through the live events. So I know we're running out of time. I can see Steph doing her little getting ready to say, we got to wrap it up look. And are there any other final things you wanted to share about live events and all the great things that you're doing that we haven't covered yet?
For the live events, just to reiterate what Steph said, they seem scary. They are what you make of them. They're a lot of fun. Definitely start small, like Steph suggested, but also try to find ones that are appropriate for your genre. Like, I do Comic Cons because fantasy is very adjacent to Comic Cons. If you write romance, there's lots of different romance conventions. I know some authors who do like farmers markets and sell really well. So you can start very small. So don't be afraid of that. And also, Kickstarter and live events go very well hand in hand because number one, you're producing pretty books that will then sell well at live events. But Kickstarter also gives you lots of talking points and additional swag and things that you can have at these live events too. They very much feed each other that way as well, which is a nice ecosystem to have.
That's perfect. I think that's a great way to end this conversation on live events. I would love, though, to be able to send people to a URL or website or whatever you're working on now. So please let us know what your URLs are.
Yes, y'all can find me at amycampbellbooks.com. That's where you can see my whole catalog. And like Steph, all of my books have AI images done by ChatGPT to make them look really pretty. So you can see those there. And you can also see my latest Kickstarter there too.
Perfect, perfect. I love that we had a chance to talk about this because this is something that I never really thought about for AI. And now this is a great use case. And I'm sure that somebody's going to go out there and really kick some butt doing live events with AI's help. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it today. Thank you so much for being here. Danica, do we want to talk about anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah, just to reiterate what Steph was saying about this idea of having not really thought about it, because as an introvert, I've always just been like, yeah, not for me, have a nice day. Because I've done book signings and things, and they were never my thing. It never moved the needle for me. And I love seeing people like Amy who are super successful at it and understanding she's an introvert. This isn't a natural, ooh, let's do this thing, but we now have tools that can help us. So, really excited about that. As always, I want to remind you to like and follow Future Fiction Academy, Future Fiction Press, Publish Drive, Brave New Bookshelf, all of those things on all the different socials. Make sure you're liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel. I know we hit that one hard today, but always a good reminder that we do have so many resources out there, and I want to make sure that people are getting connected in all the ways possible because this is really great information. And also, as always, if you have a recommended guest or a recommended topic, just let us know because we always want to make sure that we're providing things that are going to be beneficial to the author community.
Absolutely. We are here for you with all the good AI and publishing stuff. So come by bravenewbookshelf.com, check out the show notes for this particular episode. We'll be sure to get them in there and get all of our links and whatnot so you can go find Amy and all of her books and all of this great advice about doing live events. So everybody, thank you so much for listening and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Brave New Bookshelf. Be sure to like and subscribe to us on YouTube and your favorite podcast app. You can also visit us at bravenewbookshelf.com, sign up for our newsletter, and get all the show notes.